All right. Gonna do a daily recap here of the March. We are in March, correct? Yeah, March 13th. Color flip. Specifically, I'm gonna use the 4-minute chart, which is one that we've tested. Um, and as mentioned on previous videos, you can use this on any time frame as long as it's something you're comfortable with. So let's start out here. Once again, for those who haven't seen previous videos, this orange box simply represents London session on NQ. And I have it there just for reference to see where 9:30 starts. So let's go ahead and start with the first trade right at the open. You had this candle here. This candle was your confirmation, right? This is where it closed. If you wait for a retest, you get in right here. And if you don't, you get in right there. On the retest, which we like to wait for, something small. Let's just say you got into the line or somewhere around here. Your stop loss goes above this wick right here, right? If you're comfortable with a bigger stop, you can take it to maybe the high right here. But this one right here should be fine. And you're setting yourself 1 to 2, right? Let's say 1 to 2.1, that's fine. And as always, if you're not taking a 1 to 2, you can take a ride down to this low right here, which was the next low to attack or go towards. And ultimately, you had a couple lows here. I'm just going to mark the last one. If you were able to ride this and trail, which I have not covered, but we can cover in other videos, you could have definitely trailed from a 1 to 2, at least to London low, or if you don't have that marked, you could have trailed as much as you could. Ultimately, that yielded around a 1 to 7, comfortably a 1 to 5, or a 1 to 6. So that was the first trade. With that trade, you were risking 111 ticks, and you were making, it should be 222, correct? Yeah, somewhere around there. So that was the first trade, looking good. On this one here, on the next flip, if for any reason you didn't catch this first move, um, you had this engulfing right here. Then you had the confirmation of the flip right here, right? And if you do have it, I'm going to change this real quick because some people might have this in red and green. So if you have it, I have it in custom colors, the same thing. So you got the short signal there. Here, however, you did get this confirmation way, way above the line. In this case, personally, I don't like to take these. They are a great distance. And if you start to look at your stop loss on this, so usually when the flip happens this far away, right, you could wait for a retest and get in. In this case, if you did, I will say that you got something out of it, but you are approaching this high right here. And usually what we aim for with this flip, if you're going to the downside, you're aiming at the lows, right? Because you're flipping down, you're looking for that next low, that next low. In this case, on the confirmation right here, right, you have a high right here. So you could try to ride to that high. Let's just say you got in here, you waited for some kind of retest, and you got in, I don't know, right there. Right, your stop is below this candle, 178 tick stop, right? And so that's your risk, and your reward would be to this high right here, which we didn't quite make it to, but you were green on that trade. I mean, we made it. No, we didn't make that high either. So again, we were far from it, and we had almost approached this high. You got to see if that risk is worth it. I'm actually just going to map it out real quick. Let's say we said somewhere around here. What's really on that candle? You're aiming for 252 with a risk of around 167 because that was a confirmation candle. So, I mean, not bad. You do technically there have a risk to reward of 1 to 1.5. If you would have gotten into this trade and at least trailed it, you could have. Again, I don't like it when it sits far from the line, but also when the distance to that next high is close, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please ask questions, and I will answer them. Let's move on to the third trade. And now this for me is approaching, Javier might disagree, but after 10:30 to 12:30, I like to stay out, but that's just me. However, we'll just follow through with exactly what the flip did. So here you have confirmation. Against slight pullback, your next low is right here. So I would be very careful on that approach. If you did take something like this, just be aware that you're flipping down. Here, let's just say you got in even right here, you got in a little late, right? Or you hesitated or whatnot. Your stop is 124, right? And then here, you do have ultimate targets to the downside of 456. But in this case, you'd more likely get stopped out, or if you're able to trail, I tend to look at the next low. Trying not to get too descriptive in these videos and just cover exactly how the flip performed. So let's just go with that, because I can get into deeper combos about which lows to aim for. Now this did end up coming back. If you didn't move your stop for any reason, you were stopped out on this. Right now with this initial, this is something that we like to discuss a lot. With this initial move, right, you hit 300 ticks in profit, which is already, depending on what your sizing is, right, 2 M&Q, that would give you $1 per tick. So you're at around $300 profit. Even with this candle here, as you were approaching, right, you got to around 355. So you were in pretty good profit. Now, if you left this alone and didn't do any trailing whatsoever, then yeah, you're pretty much here. This would put this 167 loss, let's say, and 124 would set you back near break even, or maybe like negative a little bit. And you don't get another flip until this one right here. And again, this is the window in time where I don't like to trade. But if you were taking it, you had this here, you didn't really have a pullback. So you might have missed out on it, or you might have taken it. Either way, if you did, let's just say we did, you take it on the, if you take it directly on the close because there's no pullback, although you're supposed to wait for a pullback, your next high is right there, which is basically this one right here. Right, so you do approach it and then you start to reverse. And a lot of these you can definitely get out at break even. Again, you are surging. In this case, you surged 220 ticks, right? If you are already, let's say we're gonna go with a scenario that you already took this win here. You're up 300 and you don't want to go back down. This is where you got to set your own rules, and we cannot advise on that. But you got to set your own rules, right? If you're up X amount, are you going to continue? If you're not satisfied that for any reason, again, that's personal situations. You got to deal with your risk management. But on this trade itself, you did spurt all the way up to $216. If you got some kind of entry here, I mean, if you got a better entry on this kind of retest, you did better. On this one here, might have been a little tougher, but again, you did have that immediate low right there, and you had signs that you were rejecting it, but we're trying to stick with the color flip. I'm trying to do that. All right. So here, your next flip was at 2 p.m. Right now, this one is for me would be valid because it's after that 10:30 to 12:30 period, where I tend to find a lot of chop. All right, so let's go with this one. Your confirmation was here. You had a slight pullback. Let's say you got in, I have no idea. Let's say right there. Now, this is quite a large stop, right? It's 258 ticks. Sizing, again, we cannot advise on, but if you're taking something like this, let's see, your next high is this previous one right here. Right, and so if you're looking at those highs, I don't want to get in deep, but I will put it here. So we got this guy here, your next high. Got that one, got this, you technically have a high here, right? So I'm gonna go with the wick high. You got a wick right here. And these are methods to look for where you're aiming, right? So if this, I'm gonna remove this box for a second, right? If this flip happens, you wanna keep your eye on this retest. As we approach here, right? What do you see is, okay, we hit the high. We do have some kind of rejection, but after that rejection, we do hold and close above it. Shows you that more than likely we're going to continue. We come here, we approach, reject that high. This gets a little scary here, but we still hold the previous high that was broken, and we continue and close above. So you start looking how price is escalating and starting to move up in this case, right? So like I said, I won't get into it too much, but we ultimately did. If you were taking just purely 1 to 2s, or if you were taking it to a new high, you got the trade. So let's just say we got in here, flip, we got in somewhere, let's say late there. Again, very, very large stop. The other one I had set was 258, this is 289. Size appropriately, that's a very large stop. However, again, in other videos we can cover, as soon as certain candles close, you can start to lower your risk, right? Once you're 1 to 2 candles into the move, even here at this rejection, you start to see this. I mean, at this point, let's just say you did this, you were up 200. Well, again, with 2MNQ, you're up 222. At the burst, you're at 262, right? Let's say it closes right here, which it does. You're still up 165. On this retest all the way down, you're back down to $50. Again, you gotta judge how much you want to hold and what your risk profile is like and where you're at with holding, right? If you're not there yet and you just want to take profit as soon as you see it, you can do that as well. Again, this is all up to you. But what I was going to say is you could always lower your risk, right? As the move starts to propagate, you hit one high, you survived, kept going, right? Now you hit this second high, right? There's no reason you can't lower your risk if you do want to hold the whole way through without going to break even, right? And break even is another option. You can say, well, you know what? We hit this high, we hit that high. Now we're showing this candle here. That is not a continuation of a bullish candle. And again, I keep forgetting that my candles are a different color, right? So my bearish candles are purple and my bullish candles are white, right? But you see here, you have 1, 2, 3. You're holding, right? But at that point, let's just say you went to break even and you're at flat, right? If it comes back down, takes you out of break even. Either way, you're in profit. So, and on continuation, just to finish this off, we ultimately did, after some heavy pullbacks, we finally got into this right here, right? And when I say heavy pullbacks, let's just say you held through this, you had the continuation, right? And you finally almost made it to this high, right? Let's just say none of this exists. You have no idea what's going to happen. If I'm currently up 404 ticks, right? And I start to see, I see this candle, and then I start to see price come down, right? At what point, and again, this is a personal decision, are you going to make that choice and say, you know what, I'm taking my money here, right? At the close of this candle right here, the first bearish candle we get after this move, and we're approaching that high, we get that candle there. You're at 383 ticks. So you're going to take it, or you're going to wait for 383 to turn into 229. And are you willing to hold or not? This is where you got to come up with your rules on that. And this trade here is getting to the latter end of the day. You have this flip here that happened at 15, so 308, right? You got the confirmation here. You had a small pullback. In this case, based on where I normally place my stop, definitely would have been stopped out. But pretty much immediately. So here, let's just say you wait for a pullback. The issue with this pullback here, and I need to get more descriptive in other videos, the issue with this is that you had this candle, right? You're waiting for a pullback, but in that, right, price at one point already takes out where your stop would be. So this one is a bit of a question mark in my book. I suppose you could wait to get to the line, but now I'm not going based on the regular rule set that I use. So, this one's definitely up to you and how you handle it. I don't like the fact that it would have broken my high right? This is what I use as my stop loss. So even if price opens and I go like this, but in any case, even if you, let's just say price opened and it went down, I don't recall exactly what happened with this candle. Let's just say you did this, right? So price technically opened right there, right? If it pushed down already and you were waiting, you got into a little pullback. I mean, what were you going to lose here? 19, 20 ticks? I don't know. It's not really much. This is a bit of an oddball, but they do happen. And here, obviously, I'm not going to cover. This is already 4 p.m. That's New York close. I wouldn't be trading anything past that. So to recap, in the morning, you had a very, very nice. Usually, this first flip usually is very, very good, right? You get a very long move, and I'll go into other videos in more detail on how I techniques for trailing, right? Techniques that would help you to trail, because usually if you don't see an opposite color candle close in this situation, you see here, you just saw bear, bear, bear. You can trail a specific way. There's ways to do it, and you also gauge with price and momentum, right? You see in a lot of these candles here, in a lot of these candles, you had, as you had the flip, you did this big surge, right? And this is where you got to judge, all right? So you got in somewhere here, you surged to 245. This candle closed at 38, right? So you went from 200 and something positive to that, right? And I won't prolong this combo more, but you see, right, you got to wait. And this one here, you were up 365 back to 204. So you got to pick what you want to do. That comes with however it is you trade and your trading style. But that's the recap for March 13th on the flip. Overall, pretty good day. Did get a little dicey in some areas, but definitely very possible to be green. If you have any other questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll get those answered. Until tomorrow.